This is Fawcett in the background. Say hello, class.
Hi.
Hi.
Steven's like, get it away.
Wait, we should tell her this right after the Lexi is sick. So that's why she can't talk.
Anyways, back to
I sound horrible.
Yeah,
Amy, will you come sit down?
Yeah, Brogan said it was okay.
I wish we could focus this thing on the board.
Oh. I can't sing. It's so sad. I was trying to sing in the car and my mom has come back. Doesn't my voice sound great?
I would like
You
to.
just noticed
I would
that.
like to hear you try to sing.
It was really funny. Hey, don't worry, I know. Okay.
You don't sound nice.
I'm gonna take my.
It's some
I'm
sort
gonna
of
take my
throat
Okay.
disease.
In the chair. Do you want to move my second?
Sing. Is
Okay, I'll finish writing.
Yes,
Or Hugo's birthday.
I'm more excited about today.
Yeah. Guy who cuts off his ear, creepy. Ewan McGregor, not creepy. Alrighty. So today we are going to be spending the day with a writing workshop on your specific outline. For those of you who grasp how to do judicial essays, this is going to be kind of a boring day. It's going to be a review day. For those of you who need lots of help, I'm hoping you will find today to be very useful because it's going to be very practical, and I'm not going to be doing very much talking except for at the very beginning. And all of this stuff can also be found, I think, entirely in your textbook, although maybe some of the comments that I make will not be. But certainly, these little outlines, little graph chart type things are all available for you. Does everyone have an outline today?
Yes.
No.
I have. I spent so
That's
much
fine.
time.
Rough is fine. Do we? I mean, I'm talking like, you know, do we have a thesis and some
Yeah.
basic point ideas that maybe could support
One of my
it?
points I'm gonna have to do some more research on.
That's fine. That's fine. That's what we're actually gonna work in groups, and I'm gonna pair you, and we're gonna be doing a lot of discussion on it. And next week is actually going to be a grammar day where we go into just some very specific stuff that I've noticed a lot of y'all don't get. So these are going to be very practically oriented. I'm sort of trying to finish up the last few weeks before we turn to more literary stuff. And just making sure you guys get the basics of what I've been trying to teach you all year long. Because I've discovered yesterday my 8th graders did not. They didn't even, they just didn't get it at all. And it's been a whole year of me going over it. So I want to make sure that I don't do that again. Can someone increase the height of this?
yeah, probably.
It's really making me feel awkward. Alright, now I'm going to just switch over to this. Alright, much more. Alrighty, so let's just go ahead and plunge into a couple of things. You might want to take some notes on this part. These are going to be all heavily oriented to, they aren't heavily oriented, they are all about the proof, how you're going to obtain proof for this putting Satan on trial. And in the book, they discuss 3 different ways that you can look at proof. Now, the way he does it in the book, they're actually all individual essays. I do think that you can mix and match, so that's why I'm doing all 3 today. For example, when we get to here, 1, 2, and 3, he's going to talk about being proof paragraph 1, proof paragraph 2, proof paragraph 3. You could also very quickly do all of those in the same paragraph and have that just as one of your proofs. All right, so I'm going to do a little bit of going through. If you are looking in your book, you don't have to, but if you are, these are going to be found in Judicial Essay 2, 3, and 4, I believe. Just double check on 4. Yes. And the actual worksheet, these are arrangement worksheets, and they are all available for you. Okay, so first of all, this one here. One of the things you can look at in a judicial essay. Oh, is this on?
Yes.
Okay. One of the things you can look at in a judicial essay is the evidence of the charge. So this is found, if you're looking in your book, Judicial Essay 2. I don't know the page, I didn't bring the worksheet. Page 88, but it doesn't look like this.
I thought I was 101.
Is there a worksheet available?
I have page
Yes, there it is.
80.
87 is the worksheet, 88 is the outline, but both of them are relevant. Alrighty, and this is fairly simple. Of course, you still have to identify your thesis. So you have to decide if you're going to support the accusation or if you're going to support the defense. Are you going to support Satan, or are you going to, and you can decide who's accusing. Is it God accusing? Then you'll support God's side. If it's Adam and Eve accusing, that becomes a whole different ballgame, and you guys are allowed to pick whom you are defending. If you're defending Adam and Eve against Satan, that becomes a little bit more fun. If you're defending God, it's kind of like, well, of course he's right. So, anyway,
Wait,
yes, say that again.
what happens if you think Adam and Eve are at fault?
And Satan is not at fault. Then if you're here and you're going to say that Adam and Eve are accusing Satan, right?
Oh,
You're going to be on Satan's defense. You are his defense lawyer.
sounds good. I
Okay.
can do this.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty.
Seems defensive.
Hey, it's quite possible if you're Adam saying it's all Satan's fault, you can defend
There should
Satan.
be like an advertisement. that says,
Because in
"Hey,
the end, too,
I defended Satan. You want me to
in
lose?
my defense of my defending here, probably. If Adam and Eve hadn't have fallen, like it's their responsibility, then technically I don't really exactly know. This is why it's kind of hard to judge because I don't really know what would happen. But technically, that temptation of Satan would still be there, and so technically it's not Satan's fault because he's going to be there. But Adam and Eve are the ones that have to make
That's what you
the
mean.
choice.
That's the
Mhm.
strand that
Like,
Calvin took.
The temptation could have come in from a cow. Like the cow was tempting them, but they had the choice whether or not.
Right, right. And then if you're on the accusation, you're going to look at motive and intent. But of course, motive doesn't. You can't have just a motive to convict. But anyway. So let's talk about, so this is the first way you could look at it. You can look at the evidence itself. So these would be involving going through scripture or going through Paradise Lost, or if there are other resources from Mr. Blair's class or beyond that might be useful for you. But he suggests you divide it up, and you can see how the movie 12 Angry Men is as well. We talk about the actual, just the evidence. What are the facts? Just the facts, ma'am, okay? And then you can talk about the reliability of it. How accurate. Remember how they did this in the movie? They said what were the facts that you thought were really persuasive, and then they sort of evaluated how accurate they were. And then they also talked about the credibility of the witness. So maybe the story itself, the evidence itself seems reliable, but the witness itself is not credible. So if you have from Paradise Lost Beelzebub coming up to be the supporting witness for Satan, you see how you could take that as a credibility of the witness, like, well, yeah, he's a fallen angel, so we're not really going to believe what he says. Does that make sense? Those are different ways that you can take the evidence. And this goes for both sides. All right, so if you are supporting the accusation, you're going to talk about how the evidence is very reliable and the witnesses are very credible. And if you are on the defense, you're going to talk about how the reliability, that it's not reliable, and that there may be questions about the witnesses. Does that make sense? So that's one way to write a judicial essay, supporting with that.
So,
And you guys did that. Sorry, you guys did that in your 12 Angry Men essay when you brought out the different facts. Like, okay, the jury made a just decision because they held on to the fact that this was unreliable, that sort of thing. Yes, Cayman.
So do A, B, and C are something that our 3 points represent, or is it we could do evidence of the act for all 3 points, reliability of the evidence for all 3 points, or credibility of the witness? That's what we have to have.
In your division, would it be the three things A, B, C, or would it be under A, those?
Yeah. I would leave your division of argument to something like the accusation is secure given the evidence, the reliability, and the credibility of the witnesses, something very general like that, just giving that outward structure. And then within, this 1, 2, 3 is just, here are 3 different types of evidence. And you could have 4, you could have 5, you could have 2. Does that make sense?
So is this different than what we've been doing?
It isn't exactly, no, but the format of your proof paragraphs may be slightly different. But the actual format of the essay remains the same. And like I said before, you could take A, B, and C, and that could all be just one proof paragraph, or just A and B. So if you don't want this to be your whole essay, does that make sense? You can take simplified versions of this. So you could just, because we're going to talk about 2 other ways you can defend or accuse. So you could take just one of your paragraphs of the evidence that Satan was in the garden is good. It's found from, multiple witnesses. Adam, Eve, you could make up other animals that saw him, whatever. Satan himself maybe would say he was in the garden. So that could just be one short paragraph. There's no question he was there, and given Beelzebub's testimony, he had malignant intent. Does that make sense? How that could be a shorter paragraph rather than the whole thing. Yeah, Rebecca.
This is kind of random, but does it have to be written like an actual essay form, or can we do a dialogue of the board?
It does need to be an essay form, yeah. A dialogue would be really fun, and actually, this is the first time I've taught this essay this way. Before we did do a dialogue, and we actually acted it out and dressed up, and it was super fun, except for we always had to chastise Eve every year. Always inappropriate outfit. Anyway, sorry.
I have a question. I don't really want to defend Satan, but I don't think he was at fault.
Then you have to.
But I don't think he did the right thing.
Well, okay. It's hard to be a defense lawyer, isn't it? When you have to look at a person and say, this accusation is not just, and I don't like anything about this person. That's hard.
So should I just not even try and do that?
No, you should do it.
Okay.
You should challenge yourself. How can you say, look, it's not his fault? How can you can do that. In fact,
But he was at fault because God punished him. So obviously
It
he's
depends on like.
at fault.
so you need to
Put
structure your
accusation
thesis to
in.
say that. Okay, yeah. But think about it this way. You could really easily win the audience's favor as defending Satan if you begin by saying, remember that establishing goodwill thing that you emailed me about? If you're like, look, I know this guy is just a dirty scoundrel and nobody wants him to win. And I don't want him to win, and I know he won't win in the end. But in this particular case, we cannot hold him fully culpable for what happened. Does that make sense? And then you could, at the end, call for a partial sentence or a new accusation, like a more clear accusation.
Not
But
being held.
That might be a way to
Yeah.
kind of say, look, I'm not going to string him up to dry for this entirely by himself. That would
Right.
not be just.
That makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do we have to use evidence just of the fall, or can we use evidence of what has happened after the fall?
You can use evidence of any point in history. You can go beforehand. Paradise Lost also has that scope, both before and after the fall, and you can use any of that. Alrighty. So that's one way, and that's, like I said, that is in your book. There's a little chart, so you can look at that if that's helpful for you. The next way is focusing the proof 2, which is in Judicial Essay 3. And it also has a little chart, like it'll look like this. I don't know what the page number is, but it's 101. Okay, but it's very similar. And this has a little bit of a different take. Oh, this is A. Now here the focus, particularly for this essay, is going to be on C. Again, act committed is really just fleshing out the evidence, much of this stuff here, okay, talking about what has happened. Then you're going to talk about what law is violated, if there is a law, but there may not be. You can sort of play around with that one a little bit, but it's not like you can impose American governmental systems on this issue. Does that make sense? So if it violates the law of God, that's fine. But other than that, you can't sort of throw in other elements of judicial structure. But here, I think there's a lot to focus on in the harm suffered. So talking about why somebody is guilty just because of how the harm that it has incurred. So that's a totally different type of essay, right?
So like because what they did and what they read from that.
And the consequences of that. And you can see how that could be a very effective way to argue, not as judicially American-minded, right? You can't be convicted in a court of law for doing something that hurts someone if it's not against the law. Does that make sense? Like, it doesn't matter how much you hurt somebody. Although it does happen. We have friends that are in court right now over a car accident. And people can take people to court about being hurt, even though technically, it wasn't like they violated a law, but they were mutually at fault. But there are definitely ways that you can still utilize this. Just be careful that you don't jump straight here. Do try to come up with something that you can link the harm to with law violated. Obviously, everybody is hurt in this situation except God, right? If you think about it, Adam, Eve, it's the snake, they're all cursed. So you could probably find Satan guilty based just on a violation of God's law in one way or another, and then the harm that is incurred because of it. And really, if you read Paradise Lost, before any of this begins, Jesus has already come up and been willing to sacrifice himself for his people. So you can talk about the great harm that is inflicted upon the Son of God as well because of this, if you want. So do you see how that would be a whole essay right there? Like this would be huge. But there are ways you could also very simply bring it into a different type of essay. So there's two ways you can take that. This could very easily be if you put a 1, 2, 3 here, maybe a 1 and a 2 here, and 3, 4 here, boom. That's the whole essay. That's very easily done.
So we can't do C as a whole paper.
Eve, Satan,
No, you have to complete it.
and Jesus.
Animals.
You can't do just C here. No, you do have to connect them together. This is where it's going to be tricky for you, but I think you can do it.
What about are we allowed to, are they distinct enough where we can't mix and match?
Yeah, that's what I was
Like,
thinking.
can we
You
do
mix, like-
C and
Yes.
B on the other
That's
one?
what I'm trying to say is you can. If you don't get too bogged down, like you wouldn't have 1, 2, 3 here. You might have maybe a 1 and a 2. Do you see what I'm saying? You have to keep it simple, but you could do a paragraph here, a paragraph here, and a paragraph in the next one I'm going to talk about, or 2 paragraphs here. You can do that. It will work, depending on your thesis. But if that's too complicated for you, I highly recommend you just pick one of these 3 and just do your whole paper that way, if that's simpler. Alrighty. Questions about harm inflicted? Yes.
So if I'm not, am I accusing, how am I going to argue if I'm not accusing Adam and Eve?
Yes. Okay, great. Good question. Especially for this one.
Yeah.
You're going to talk about the harm that is inflicted with an accusation.
Whoa.
And it
Oh
does
my gosh.
happen. Does that make sense? Just that's why we have to be very careful with what we accuse people of, because it will hurt them. Does that make sense?
And
But it's not,
Wait, it can also hurt Adam and Eve themselves, because if they're
That's true.
thinking it's not our fault, Satan was the one who did wrong, then that's a sin in and of itself, and then they're just
And they're kind of compounded rather than
Yeah.
seeking repentance or seeking, they get that.
so I'm not going to address anything that Adam and Eve did and be like they're the ones at fault.
You can.
I can?
Mm-hmm. You definitely, just think of it on this side. So you would say, evidence of the act. Adam and Eve ate the fruit. Satan didn't tranquilize them, open their mouths, puree the apple, and G-tube it down their throats. Okay? Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
that's where you're going to
Yeah,
be.
puree.
Sorry. How else would you get it down in their sleep? Okay. Alrighty, and you're going to talk about the reliability of that evidence is the Word of God. It is
Right.
very clear who's doing the act here. And the witnesses are very credible for that. In fact, even Adam and Eve while they're blaming somebody else, still say, I did do it, but it's not me. So you can just stop at the but and say, look, they admitted fault. They said they did it, and God said not to. It's pretty clear. Does that make sense how
Oh, yeah.
you would do that? And the same thing here. You would talk about, look, this is what happened. This is the law that was violated. God clearly said. And look what they did. Look at the harm that they have done. Annalisa's point is a great one. To themselves by refusing to be repentant. To Satan, to giving him greater power than he has. That's fair. And to Jesus. They have now made it necessary for the Son of God to sacrifice himself. You see how you could put Adam in like this? The accusation's in the wrong place here. It needs to be somewhere else.
And they're the one accusing?
Adam and Eve are, if they're Adam and Eve are accusing, you need to say, yeah, you need to take it off Satan and put it back on them. It's their fault. Yes, Kim.
So for harm suffered, what we say since our thesis is whether Adam and Eve is responsible, or Satan is responsible for the fall of Adam and Eve.
Mm-hmm.
So would you say harm suffered from Satan himself tempting? That's because that's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
So we would go by that and not.
So if you're on this side, you're going to talk about, even Satan's mistranslation of the word of God. Did God really say you could not eat? You talk about the mental harm that comes from intentional twisting of words and the psychological damage that comes with that, those kinds of things. You can go into Paradise Lost if you want. One of the things Satan does in that book is while Eve is asleep, he implants these dreams in her head that start getting her thinking and start moving beyond what she should be thinking about. And you could talk about the physical harm that comes with his, that really was kind of a seed that engendered a lot of the issues that come later. So you could talk about that too. And then of course there's obvious physical harm. He's going to get his head crushed by Jesus one day, so that's kind of a big deal, right? Yeah. Right, so any questions about those two? Anything else?
Could you argue for both?
Both sides?
That would be all.
I don't think so. I think you could definitely leave a conclusion. I'd like you to not, let me put it that way. You can definitely leave a conclusion saying that the accusation isn't worded correctly. Like you could leave it with, I want all three of these people in the, not the witness box, what is it, defense? Where do you stand when you're being charged? There's some term for where you, anyway, I forget what it's called, blanking. You could say, I don't like the accusation and I would like to see it rescinded and rephrased in this way, and that would be fine. But try not to focus too much on the ambivalence in your essay because you're going to end up not arguing anything. You're going to be just saying, I like this, I don't like this.
That's been my problem with the 12 Angry Men because I'm so, you can't pick a side.
Yes,
So
it's hard.
That's why it was so bad because I was like, this or this or this, not this. And just look at the facts and they say this, they also say that. So,
Which is, I think, really hard in that movie and really hard here too because really, in all fairness, that is, I think, the accurate way is to say everybody is at fault. But in this situation, they all blame each other, so they're throwing out accusations, so we're going to take it with what they have.
When I write my papers, I just think of whatever I'm doing, just think 100% on that, and then think in the refutation, worry about other.
Yes.
Oh, true.
Yes, that's very true. You do get an opportunity to point out weaknesses to your argument. And again, keep in mind that this is an intellectual exercise in learning to be persuasive.
Right.
So even if maybe your heart isn't 100% there, the point of this, you're not going to stand before God one day and be like, okay, so about that essay, I know it wasn't quite right, okay? It's just think of it as an intellectual exercise. Alrighty. At the same point, I never want you to disassociate what you do from your moral center. You should always do the right thing. Alright. The last, so we've looked at the charge itself, and then there's one other thing you could talk about, the justice, wait, let me find the page number for you first of all. Focusing the proof 3, we talked about causes and motives and harm, I don't know what, this is under judicial essay 4, and this one kind of is a little bit of a blend, so I don't think I'm going to write it on the board. But it's just another way you can sort of talk about. So you can talk about the cause of the action, the character of the defendant, and the character of the victim. And you can see how that's kind of a blend of things we've already talked about here. Credibility
Is this the
of the
third
witness, character of the witness, those things go together. So you could do a whole paragraph just talking about the character of Satan or Adam and Eve and why that alone lends justice to the accusation or lends questionability to the accusation.
But couldn't you say remember in the 12 Angry Men, at least in my paper, that the character of the boy was someone who's a criminal, but you still have to.
Yes,
look at,
absolutely.
You can't just say
That's-
just because he's.
Just because of who he is not enough to convict. Absolutely, I agree. I think you can still do a paragraph. I actually don't think the jury was wrong to say, looking at where this kid came from, the chances that he did this are higher than in a different situation. That's different than saying this kid is a low-down piece of scum and there's no way he's a good kid. Just because, do you see that there's a very subtle difference there? And one is legitimate argumentation and the other is an ad hominem attack.
Okay, so it's not too late to change your mind.
No, we're going to spend a lot of time working on changing our
my
minds
outline's
today.
sort of wide.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
My only
Right
one
now,
that
why are
fits.
you
My only one that fits is the evidence of the act. Everything else.
Well,
is sort of
okay,
wide.
and you don't have to do this. If you have something else that you like, that you've already done, please feel free to do it. But these are very, very solid places to begin. I highly recommend thinking about adding these to them because they give you a more full-rounded argument. This whole book, this is my favorite part of the book. I think it really does give you some clear ways to argue. All right, so having said that, that's really all I had to say. What I would like to do is pair you up. Really, we could do, Andy, I gotta stick you with somebody. Let me think about that for a second. But as far as where we're sitting, this works except for Andy. I'll figure you out here in a second.
Go back.
Can you,
back row.
well, but EJ is not writing the essay, so yeah, so that's not gonna work.
Number then?
Yeah, but only because Madeline's not here today,
I can go
so I
with
had to.
Logan and Caleb.
You could.
Just divide up into
Like a-
Thinking about it.
And
I'll
do groups of things.
Oh, yeah, that works.
three. I like groups of two. It's gonna for what we're doing today. All right, this is what I want you to do. I actually did bring.
Candy?
Oh. Yeah, that's not candy.
One thing I recommend you do if you've typed your outline. If it's not typed, maybe you shouldn't do this. But I actually recommend cutting it up into pieces of proof. And then trying to decide where, then maybe take out a piece of paper and okay, I want to do something on this and something on this, and then just sort of start moving things around. And you can continue to do that with additional things you come up with. Just cut out little pieces of paper and sort of look and say, all right, this sort of fits with this idea, this fits here better, this fits here. So these are available for you. I know that sounds crazy, but it really does help. Because sometimes when you are, when you're writing your outlines, you just can't quite get yourself out of this all just makes sense. And if you really pull apart the evidence and say, well, it might be okay here, but it's a lot better here, it helps you shift things around. And sometimes you'll discover, hey, you know what, this doesn't really make a very good proof, but this would be awesome in an introduction, and you just throw it up in the introduction. We did that before with the outlines.
Yeah,
Remember when I
it was
cut
just
them
more
into
confusing.
pieces and you sorted them? That was more to look at the overall structure of an outline, but you can also do it with your actual individual quotes. It's really good when you get into research papers and you have quotes and evidence and you're trying to figure out where to put it all and start just shifting it, going around like this. That's why, have you done the note cards yet for a research paper? You haven't been
Yes.
assigned that?
I've
That's
done it
why
multiple times.
English teachers have you do that, so you can be like, here, here, here. It's not just because they hate you and want to make your lives miserable. Not just because. Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Guy, so
What's that?
senior thesis is Mr. J, so we're not too sure about that.
Mr.
My mom is trying to
I don't
make
know
me
if he
do it,
assigns
and I'm
note
telling
cards.
her that I
Yeah.
don't
He
wanna
does?
do it.
Okay.
Which he-
I did when I taught it. So,
I
well,
mean,
but
I'll
I did
get-
the same thing.
I'll get my fraction of Mr. Johnson. and
Oh, I'm
see.
sure I will one year. Mr. Johnson's not going to be here
I
forever.
hope he just gets married.
I know.
Sad.
No.
You hope Mr. Johnson gets married? Did you say?
He wants him to leave by the time
No,
he
no,
gets
I
to
didn't
senior
say that. I
thesis.
said that I hope
He's
he gets
working on
married
it.
and lives
He
happily
might.
ever
Nice
after.
happily ever after somewhere else.
And doesn't have to
I'm
worry about.
looking forward to senior thesis with Mr. Johnson. It's just gonna be challenging.
You guys, that's 2 years from now. He'll be done school by then.
But I don't
might
mind
be here if he doesn't get
Yeah.
funding.
Yeah, that's true. That's
He
true.
says that he might live here and go to school in England too.
Oh, do both.
Yeah, because he can just
That's
go,
gonna work.
he can just fly there like every couple months, he said.
Right.
That would be so fun.
No.
I would rather just live there personally.
Yeah, me too.
I-
All right.
Yeah, teacher Gray Friars live in England.
Your choice. Go
That's
ahead.
probably why.
Alrighty, Andy, I am going to put you with Nadine and Rebecca because you're kind of in that row, so you can shift over
Absolutely.
and it'll work.
It'll work.
Alright, this is what I want you to do. You're going to take out your outlines.
I know.
You're going to discuss one of your outlines,
Well,
go through it,
I wanna have
read it. Oh, can you jot down some like real fast
Okay,
ideas or
sure.
something like that? I don't have it, do I?
I'm destroying mine, so.
Can I have yours?
Yeah, right here.
Go to
I could think
I'm just
way
turning
more.
all of
Can we go to another class? Or are we not?
Pair of scissors.
Yes, let's chop. Can you
Chop
chop
suey?
Yeah, you can go to another classroom, but let me finish so that you know what you're doing. Alright, the point is I want you to look at each other's and point out things that don't make sense to you, things that are confusing, things that aren't in the right order. Be not mean, but please be critical because the point is to help them. You're not helping somebody if you're like, oh, this is amazing, good job, I have nothing to add, when you actually have something to add.
Yeah.
Okay? If there's something you can say that's like, you know, this just doesn't make sense to me, you could say, I'm sorry. You don't have to be like me where I'm just like, that's stupid. You don't have to say it that way. You can be nice. I should model that more appropriately in my comments on your papers. But
But what if we don't really have outlines to work with?
we'll talk about ideas
Brainstorm.
and like here's what I'm thinking of and just talk through and start writing down ideas
Okay.
for that person. But especially the things I want you to focus on are developing ideas. Make sure the thesis is good. Obviously, that's really important. Make sure you have a good thesis. Make sure that the development of argumentation is good. And if you get there, please try to help each other with arrangement. Remember, the basic outline is in your textbook. Now, some of it we haven't talked about. Some of it doesn't, like in the narrative, treatment, quality. I have no idea what he means there. He never actually tells you in the entire teacher manual, so I don't know. But you guys know what a narrative is, and you know that you need to have one. So make sure it's in there, and etc. The division of argument. Remember that seems really long, but it ends up only being like a sentence or two, and so on and so forth. It's all there to make sure you have good order. What I really want to see from this essay are good, developed ideas and appropriately arranged ideas. All right, there. I'm done. Go forth and conquer.
Can we go to another?
Yes, we can go forth and.
Go to the actual classroom.
That's why they were passed out of the garden, so they didn't have a tree of life.
So Elsa, there is the.
Sounds of you. Tree of life. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the problem.
We've never done
No.
Okay, right.
There's the board,
I have nothing right now.
and then
You have something, right?
the papers that I referenced.
I'm restarting my
In the book.
Changing my thesis.
Oh.
Okay, so you're saying
Wait, is this also-
That's what the.
Well,
Hang on one second.
start with the big
That's what the
thing.
first one looks like.
Okay, or not guilty.
Okay, so you're saying Satan is not at fault.
Hold up.
He were at fault.
So
Yeah,
why
sure,
are
yeah.
you arguing that Satan is guilty or not guilty?
That was on page 101.
I don't even know.
That's what the second one looks like.
I'm gonna be arguing that he is not guilty.
That's what
Yeah.
the third one looks like.
It had free will.
And that is, well, the outline's repeated a number of times in this section, but they look generally like that. Alright, email me if you have any more questions, and I'm happy to go over your outline the way a student would if you send it to me. Bye.